Well, greetings, folks. My name is Reverend and I have the honor and pleasure of being the senior pastor here at the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto. And it's a pleasure, a real pleasure, to welcome you to this special announcement about MCC Toronto's human rights aspirations. And now to kick off this announcement, it is now my privilege to welcome to the stage a titan of business, a man who stands out in a crowd, and someone I am proud to call my friend. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Michael Mccain.
Thank you, Jeff, and welcome everybody here today. It's an honor to be here with all of you, as particularly at the end of such a trying period in our lives when we've not been able to join together physically, and it's just a wonderful experience to be with you here today. My family's been connected with MCC Toronto since the late 2000s, and it was originally established through a relationship with the Reverend Dr. Brent Hawks, who, like us, hails from the great province of New Brunswick. And now certainly through Reverend Jeff Rock, who's had the task of filling some pretty impossible shoes following Brent, but has done so with his usual grit and bravado, and we really respect and admire that. So it is an honor to be here. It's been an honor to be associated with MCC for all of these years. I would send regards from my interminable mother, who sadly couldn't be here today because of a personal situation, but she desperately wanted to be, and sends her regards. She also has been connected with MCC Toronto for a lengthy period of time. So I and others in my family and friends and others in the community long admired the role of MCC, particularly the human rights work of this great team of individuals and the institution of MCC Toronto. What we admire most is the connectivity between the community and things that we hold so dear, like diversity and inclusion, human rights, the role that they play in the community, the role they play to all of us emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and finding the intersection of that. Today's a transformational day in the history of MCC Toronto and what they do. And my hope is that in the near future we'll be able to look back on this day and say, this is the day that we kicked it into high gear. Today, MCC is proud to announce that it's significantly elevating its human rights work. It's going to engage communities through expanded human rights programming. It's going to offer elevated hope and opportunity to the LGBTQ plus communities here and around the world, particularly in their refugee program. In places like Afghanistan, Ukraine, very recently, Nigeria, countries all around the world, which has really been a hallmark of this organization. It will form new partnerships, forge new collaborations to combat issues of common concern to all of us, and where a mantra of human rights for all will be ingrained in everything that MCC Toronto stands for and does. All of this ambition has been made possible by a campaign that's been worked on by an incredible team of volunteers over the last several years. And it's been an honor and a gift of mine to be able to co-chair this campaign with the extraordinary Anne Bray, who will be with me. Elevation, the MCC Toronto campaign, had a $5 million campaign target. It was conceived as a way to give this organization the resources that it required to build on its legacy established by Dr. Brent Hawks, Reverend Brent Hawks, and build on the legacy that's been established and expand its role as a powerhouse in our communities, our country, and around the world in human rights. Folks, we've succeeded. That's what we're doing. Okay, so now it's time for the drum roll. I said that we've succeeded, and it's really appropriate to talk about how well we've succeeded and the support of our significant donors. I'm thrilled to announce that the campaign established a target of $5 million, and we've raised to date a remarkable $4.75. So many people that helped accomplish that goal and made it happen, and I'm grateful to each and every participant in this campaign. But I'm also delighted to announce that the lead donor in this journey to the Elevation campaign is the P. Austin Family Foundation. Paul Austin and the P. Austin Family Foundation have long been generous philanthropists to many organizations in Canada, in the United States, and in Israel. One of the pillars of the foundation's philanthropy has been advancing the protection of people, equality rights, and health care, including that of the LGBTQ+ community. In speaking to people like Reverend Dr. Hawks, Jamie Watt, who was extraordinarily helpful in this campaign, and other leaders within the community, Paul Austin and the Foundation have been remarkably generous and steadfast supporting equality rights and human rights causes for decades. However, much of that philanthropy has been done quietly and in an unsung, incredibly admirable way. Today, we're proud to correct that through the gift of $1.38 million to the Elevation Fund. This is the single largest gift ever made or received by MCC Toronto. We're enormously proud to celebrate and recognize Paul Austin and the P. Austin Family Foundation for long-standing support of the LGBTQ+ community and of those who work tirelessly to ensure human rights for all. The legacy will be celebrated here at MCC Toronto in perpetuity by naming the Paul Austin Human Rights Centre. A sign right out here will commemorate the naming and will be installed outside those doors later this year. So thank you. Paul was unable to be with us personally here today, but I would like to acknowledge and thank his representative, Gail Morant. Gail, where's Gail? Right there. Thank you, Gail. We appreciate your support, and please convey our deepest and heartfelt appreciation to Paul and the Foundation. I'm also thrilled to announce that the lead corporate donor today, corporate donor in the campaign, was made by none other than the BMO Financial Group. BMO have been remarkable partners in this campaign, and we're grateful to have Scott Bryson, Vice Chair, Investment and Corporate Banking, here to say a few words on behalf of the Bank of Montreal. So thank you all, and Scott, over to you.
BMO, we share MCC's values, that everyone deserves respect, dignity, acceptance, and empowerment. I'm so happy today to announce BMO's donation, $300,000, to the new Paul Austin Human Rights Center. Our investment will focus on leadership development to build leaders who can continue this path of progress to lead within Canada, our work's not done yet, and in the world. And I want to thank all of you for the opportunity, and I want to thank BMO and You have to thank Nada, because if Nada doesn't approve some of this email, but I want to thank Nada, I want to thank Michael, I want to thank Ann, I want to thank everybody for creating a place where families like mine can thrive. And this is a great country. It didn't happen by accident. We still got work to do. And I know that this room is filled by the kind of people who will continue that important work. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Scott, and many thanks to you and all of our friends at BMO for your engagement in our human rights aspirations. And Nada, thank you so much for being with us today. As Scott said, nothing happens without Nada. So we are so grateful for your continuing support. My name's Ann Braley, and as you heard, I have been a congregant here for 35, possibly a little more. I might have, since I was a child. And I can't thank Michael enough for being my fabulous co-chair in this campaign. I've learned so much from you, and we've just had a great time together. Today is really like a dream fulfilled. I think for me, and for so many who've been involved with NCC Toronto for such a long time. For nearly 50 years, NCC Toronto has been a groundbreaking place of community activism and human rights. We've always been a different kind of church that builds bridges and creates real change. After all, it's not every church who could welcome their new senior pastor with a puff of pink smoke. And that's what we did to welcome Reverend Jeff Rock. So with today's announcement, we are truly able to accelerate and expand our impact. Funds from the Elevation campaign, as Michael mentioned, and it bears repeating, will help support our new human rights programming, much needed renovation to our public spaces that will accommodate all of the new initiatives, technology advancements, and an endowment to provide sustainability for the future. Of course, today would not have been possible without the amazing group of congregants and community leaders who came together to serve as our campaign cabinet. So with us today, I'm proud to introduce and thank Diana Bennett, Brad Berg, Mark Bonham, Andrew Fleming, Reverend Dr. Brent Hawkes, Spencer Lantier, Valerie Pringle, Reverend Jeff Rock, Brian Rolfus. These people have given their time and dedication and amazing talents. Unable to be here in person, but with us in spirit, are Douglas Elliott, Margie Mccain, Jamie Watt, and I don't think I saw Jeff Beattie in the room. All of these people are respected in their own right, and we are so grateful to have your continuing leadership. Elevation was and is a campaign focused on human rights. I would like to especially acknowledge the support of RBC Foundation as well, who have joined with us to develop an exciting new Building Youth Human Rights suite of programs at NCC Toronto. This is a startup program. It's been a little bit delayed by the pandemic, but we do look forward to launching this initiative later this year. Jennifer Torrey, who is here today with us, a former RBC executive, was instrumental in championing this initiative. And so Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. As Michael mentioned, we have a wide swath of donors who've been contributing to the campaign from inside and outside the church, from within our own faith-based, but with other faith-based communities who have supported us. And I'm very grateful to acknowledge the following donors who have made gifts of $100,000 or more to the campaign. Many thanks to the Honorable Margaret Norrie McCain, Michael McCain, Andrew and Valerie Pringle, John Lederer, Mark Bonham, and Jeff Beattie and Amanda Lang. In appreciation for the remarkable support of the McCain family in particular, I'm pleased to announce that the space that we are now in, the social hall, will be named the McCain Family Social Hall, following renovations that are going to take place this summer. A special thank you for your enduring belief in the work of NCC Toronto. Our heartfelt gratitude to you and the whole family. I'm also pleased to announce that our already renovated, beautiful new community kitchen will be named in honor of Andrew and Valerie Pringle. The community kitchen is already a hub of activity since the renovation took place. Every day there are things happening there. And we look forward to being able to host a new community accessible programs there very soon. So thank you very much. I'm now pleased to invite Reverend Jeff Rock to share more details on the impact and the outcomes of the campaign.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Michael, for being our amazing co-chairs of this campaign. Thank you to the awesome campaign cabinet for taking on this truly transformational project. We are blessed, right? We are so blessed by the participation in all of you. Before I begin, I do want to acknowledge, and you've heard it said before, but Reverend Dr. Brent Hawks, who truly set us on a path with 40 years of ministry in this place, and I have the pleasure and honor of standing on the shoulder of giants. Thank you for your service and your leadership in this community, Brent. We couldn't do it without you. I want to acknowledge some of the people in this room. I was at a United for Ukraine benefit concert last night, and Mayor John Tory talked about the human rights of Ukrainians so emphatically and so beautifully. Thank you, John, for your leadership in this space in human rights work and on the Ukraine. You know, yesterday I was at a CANFAR event. I'm on the board of the Canadian Foundation for AIDS Research, and there's Valerie Pringle up there leading something. Last night she was honored for her work for the Trans-Canada Trail. Valerie, you've been an incredible leader in this community and across our country. You know, I look around this room and see Mark Bonham. One of the first events I went to in Toronto was at the Mark Bonham Centre for Sexual and Diversity Studies. You know, there's people like Brad and Brian Berg, Brian Rolfs and Brad Berg, who I see around the city at events, and their philanthropy is so well known. Diana and Spencer, you have done tremendous work on this campaign. You know, there are people like Jamie Watt, who invited me out for dinner when I first arrived in the city and said, Jeff, I'm going to give you some advice. I'm a communication person. You've probably never heard of me, and his advice has been so important for me. Andrew Fleming, who is the co-chair of our board, along with Ann Braley, who you heard earlier, and Lori Boyce, made up the three people that were on the hiring committee that hired me and have been instrumental in this work. Paul Austin, who is our lead donor, I met at a Salah Bashir Gala not long after arriving here, and he said, Reverend who? Who are you? And I said, Reverend Rock, like dumb as a rock, and he remembered me from then on. Truly, human rights work in our city is pivotal, but around this room and part of this campaign are some of the heavyweights. And what we have truly shown at MCC Toronto is that we're better together. Right? When we come together and we work together across the lines of difference, whether you're LGBTQ or not, or racialized or indigenous, whether you're a person with a disability, whether you identify as Christian or Jewish or Muslim, we can work together for each other's rights. And that's truly what this Human Rights Center is going to be about. Even Scott Bryson, I look over, I ran as a candidate for you when you were looking for the Liberal leadership back in 2006, was it? Back in Outremont when I lived in Montreal. You know, Peter Tobbins, you're here. Paul Fletcher, I did a wedding in your backyard a couple of years ago. This is truly an example of how together we are greater than the sum of our parts. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my notes and actually say what I'm supposed to say. The Elevation campaign will create a full-time position of a human rights director who will anchor our elevated commitments to human rights. It will allow us to launch a new stream of diverse and interactive human rights programming beginning this fall that bring communities together through ongoing series of educational workshops and panel discussions and other programs. It'll engage community members from around our neighborhood and from our congregation to get involved in human rights, to provide opportunities for everyday people to take action on human rights. We'll provide core funding for our LGBTQ+ refugee program so that we can assist the 50 LGBTQ Afghan refugees awaiting sponsorship to come to Canada. We put a portal on our website saying, are there any Afghan folks who have fled the Taliban that are looking to come to Canada? We put a portal up for 1 month And we had 50 people who are waiting in countries like Iraq and Turkey and Jordan to come to Canada. We have a 50-person wait list from 1 month, from Afghanistan, and we know that there are more Ukrainian refugees coming yet. This will allow us to expand that pivotal, life-saving refugee work. We'll create a dedicated... Let's create a dedicated computer lab so LGBTQ refugees can come and work on their resumes and apply for jobs. Yesterday in our building, somebody didn't have a computer at home to do the refugee hearing, which is now online, so they did it in one of our staff's offices and on their computer. Even working in our kitchen today are some folks from our refugee program. It'll be an incredible place where people can come together. We'll have the Youth Empowering Youth Human Rights program, thanks to RBC, that will bring together youth from our Triangle program high school. You might have seen coming for a little tour before our press conference started. We'll gather kids from Regent Park and Moss Park, from the Indigenous community, from disability communities, bring youth together to work for each other's human rights and train them to be the next generation of human rights leaders. We'll bring together collaborative partnerships with other community organizations and offer their human rights defenders training. This is how you become a better community leader through a leadership development program. We'll have new alliances and partnerships that address things like systemic racism and truth and reconciliation. We'll work with interfaith leaders to combat Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and transphobia together in a truly revolutionary way. Can you imagine an LGBTQ-rooted faith community working with Muslim communities to fight Islamophobia and homophobia together? That's what the Elevation Campaign will allow us to do. We'll join together with other groups like the Canadian Bar Association and Egal Human Rights Trust in calling for the end of non-consensual surgery on intersex children, just to name one ongoing LGBTQ human rights battle that still exists here in Canada. And to accommodate this new human rights programming, the Elevation Campaign is also going to do those much needed renovations in this building so it will truly become a human rights community hub. We'll create new meeting and learning spaces for programming and community engagement, and these renovations, which will begin any day now, will inspire this place to be as well used as our community kitchen. We did those first phase of renovations as part of the Elevation Campaign, and that kitchen is now used 7 days a week. The Triangle program students take cooking classes in that kitchen. We feed them lunches because every child deserves a healthy lunch as part of their open and accepting education. And Club Sandwich makes 1,500 sandwiches every week for street-involved people in the East End of Toronto. And if that kitchen is any indication of how well this space can be used, I cannot wait. The Elevation Campaign is going to help us leverage technology. We actually reach people in 167 different countries with our online programming. We can track the IP addresses, and we've had pings from 100, I can't even name 167 different countries. Because I and those who have already contributed to the Elevation Campaign and those who are yet to contribute believe that now, more than ever, our city, our country, and our world needs more MCC. Because none of us are truly free until all of us are truly free. Right? None of us are truly free until all of us are truly free.
Well, friends, good afternoon, and I'm so pleased to be here with so many of the people that are here, all of you, but in particular, of course, Reverend Jeff Rock and his predecessor. I heard him mentioned many times, and I saw him, Reverend Brad Hawks, of course. Michael, yourself, and Ann, who chaired this campaign, and Scott Bryson, who's been one of the leading lights. I should also acknowledge a couple of other people. One, very much my colleague, Councillor Paula Fletcher. Where did Paula go? There she is, right there. Paula and I work together on a lot of things, and she is somebody who's very determined to represent this community in particular, although her efforts are not confined to that, and is a proud supporter, I know, of MCC and has been for a long, long time. And two other women I want to just acknowledge. One is my sister Jennifer, who is here, and I'm always proud when she comes out to these things, and she and I are both supporters of MCC, including of this campaign. And so I'm glad that she's here, and I'm very proud of everything that she does in the community. And I just can't resist acknowledging Nana Ristish's presence here because I haven't seen her for so long. Marvel. You know, in a lot of these different activities I would do in a given day or a given week, you find that there's an amazing number of dots that are connected. And the event that I just came from was maybe 700 or 800 Ukrainian Canadian students in Nathan Phillips Square having a protest with respect to the atrocities that are going on in Ukraine. And so we spent our time talking with them, myself, Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson, and the new Ukrainian ambassador to Canada, about human rights and about democracy and about freedom. And I think kids that age, they were probably grade 6, 7, and 8, understand some of the basics. But I said, look, right in this very building you're standing in front of, people get elected to make decisions, and some get unelected, which happens. And right in this square, people come here to protest, and they also come here to celebrate, but they come here to say what they want to say, and as long as they're not speaking in a hateful manner, then they are able to say whatever they want to say. And I describe that as ground zero in our city of human rights. But you know, if there was another ground zero, you couldn't probably identify that many. If there was another ground zero for human rights in the city of Toronto, it would be here at MCC. And I've been coming here for years, and I should just say parenthetically, as Jennifer knows, my wife, Barb, is not a religious person, and the only church that she's ever really sort of felt comfortable coming to and comes with pleasure when I say, why don't we go to MCC for a service, is this one. And it is because you can feel the minute you walk in the door, just you can feel it. I mean, nobody has to say anything. But when I walk in the door, even people I'm sure who actually disagree with me or don't support some of what I do, instantly you are welcomed and you are embraced, and people say they're glad you're here. And then the service is entirely about inclusion and respect and about human rights. And so I've always believed, going back to the day, I can remember it so well, right? You took me to see the Pink Triangle School, and I've talked about it ever since. My information is probably completely out of date. It was probably 10 or 12 years ago. How important it was in terms of the respect for those kids and giving them a fair chance to have a life and to stay in school and to feel somebody is embracing them and taking hold of them and saying they're going to help them along with their lives, as we all need to some extent or another. And many times since then, with refugees and with others, I've seen what goes on in this place, and of course outside of this place as a result of just the kind of the spiritual work that goes on the part of MCC ambassadors. And so I think this campaign is hugely important. Michael knew that, from the beginning, because there's a couple of things that I attended with him, really just to I'm not allowed to ask people for money, but except for the city. But most of the time he's saying, you notice that you have to pay, so it's but I was able to go places and just talk about MCC in the way that I am today to people who didn't know about it, who weren't aware of its mission, and who I hope some of whom at least came to know of it and came to support it. But I just think that now more than ever, and I'll finish on this note, now more than ever, this is something I think Paula will tell you to the point where she's probably bored hearing it. I don't think she is, because she knows how important it is. There's something going on in the world now, and it isn't confined to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There's something going on that represents a kind of a polarization and a kind of a hardening of people, and the way they, as I say, they talk at each other, and they don't talk with each other, and they don't sit with each other and celebrate their own differences and learn about each other and sort things out. And this place is a place that I think historically has not succumbed to that to the same extent, although even here, yesterday's hate crimes report that came out that indicated an increase in the number of hate crimes, including against US LGBTQ plus communities, but also Black Torontonians and Jewish Torontonians and Muslim Torontonians and Asian. I mean, it's a long and very sad list in its own way. But I think that this campaign, this place, represents, as a ground zero for human rights, one of the places where we push back on that and we say, no, that's not who we are here. That's not our fundamental value set. That's not how we live. And that we are going to do everything we can, including resourcing the programs at the Paul Austin Center, that are going to make sure that we don't go off and follow the world trend. And in fact, I think we have the option here through technology. It was brought in when Red was here and enhanced by Jeff, to have that message go right around the world. Technology allows that to happen. We can be a force, not just for refugees, but for people who are maybe struggling elsewhere. So I just want people to know that while the campaign has done well so far, you can never raise too much money. Those who've been involved with me in fundraising know my approach always is to say, as soon as you reach the goal, you just set a new one and keep going. What's the point in stopping? Because the work is still there. So thank you, MCC. Thank you to Michael and to Scott and to Anne and to the whole team, and to Jeff for his constant leadership, and to Brent for his pioneering leadership. I'll be there as an ally of MCC for the rest of the time. Thank you.